segment on Speak called Fair Play, where we turn the tables and our guests get to ask me a question about my career in the arts. With almost 40 years of writing books, poetry, producing and writing plays, producing, writing and directing films, designing the core mechanic for tabletop games, card games, PC games, I love talking about all the different facets and aspects of the creative industry, and I will talk about them whenever I can. Mark Robijn is the author of the Johnny Apocalypse books. You can look for Mark's work at blueforgepress.com or on Amazon. He also has a children's book and some short stories published. And you can find my full conversation with Mark about his work and his career on the Speak main channel. Mark, what would you like to ask me?
Jennifer, you have written so many books. How do you get yourself dedicated to writing every day, or what is your routine for writing that you employ to make sure that you stay steady and write?
Boy, that's a good question. That's a good question. So I have to say I have to do some throwbacks to which I really enjoyed talking with you for Speak. You talked about attending a alternative middle school. Now, was that middle school and high school, or just middle school?
It was mainly the middle school, mainly
middle school.
Yeah.
I attended they call it School of the Arts alternative, but public school. It's public school in Seattle for 7th through 12th grade. Now, the entire school was K through 12, and it only had 800 students in the entire school. There were only 12 kids in my graduating class.
Wow.
So tiny classrooms. I love the way you spoke about your teacher, Leo, and his approach to writing and even publishing. I have many bones to pick with public education in America today, but that's not why we're here.
Right.
What I did love, though, was having that alternative public school experience that did focus on the arts. Now, taught us everything else as well. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that was really pushed was write every day, even if it isn't any good. And I carried that with me. I tried to write every day. Not a lot, like say 1,000 words every day. But then I grew up and had kids. And I, of course, like many writers, heard the wonderful, I don't know actually if it's urban legend or not, about, oh my gosh, her name is completely escaping me, so we'll have to throw it up on the screen here, of The Lottery, the short story, The Lottery. And
story, I don't remember the title.
Yeah.
I remember the author.
And which is just horrible for us. It's horrible for us as writers. It was like during our interview when you said, "Well, I like Ron Howard," and you're like, and I'm like, "No, Ron Howard's enough. It's okay." Where the author was a mom with several kiddos under 5, and she had a really big hill that she had to walk up to go into town. She thought up the story on her walk into town with her kids, one of them in the stroller and the pram, and kind of polished it, kept working it out, all the details on her way home, and then sat down once the children were napping and wrote. And so I always told myself, Jennifer, this is no excuse. And so I started writing again. But what really killed me, what stopped that, and it stopped my daily writing for 15 years, was work. Writing at work. I write on average about between 20 and 30,000 words for work every week. And that's grant proposals, email, literal letters, project pitches, more grant proposals. And on the weekend and after work, I have no desire to look at words. To look at my own words. And it was only when I forced myself to participate in a project that Blue Forge Press did called the Trinity Project. And every month, 9 authors were given a prompt, and we all wrote as inspired by that prompt. And then the stories were published. That made me write. And I could trick my Virgo brain, my workaholic brain, I could trick it into thinking, well, but this is work. You're not taking time for yourself. Because I find writing is the ultimate taking time for myself. It is what I love to do. It is when I'm truly happy. I love all the artisans that I work with. Right? I love all the artisans that I work with. I wish I could literally own like a giant fancy condo and just move everyone in and see everyone every day. And it's like, I love that, but my perfect world would be, me in a cabin somewhere with no other job but writing. And, so I would say now so all of these ups and downs, and I hope that people don't have a period where they can't write or they're not writing. I heard some people say in 2020 they found it impossible to write. Their brain was so buzzing, especially before the vaccines were available and all this kind of stuff. They were so scared, they were very panicky for their loved ones, etc. I hope that if someone has a time when they aren't able to write for any period of time, that they don't give up. I think every day is a new day, and you can literally say, okay, today. Oh, well, it didn't happen today. Okay, right now. Okay, instead of saying, well, tomorrow, a week from now. Any minute you could just say, I'm just going to write. I'm going to write right now. Writing on your phone is valid. Writing at a typewriter is valid. At a computer, handwriting, on napkins, on slips of paper, whatever it is. Any kind of writing I think is valid. Mm-hmm. But now my schedule is primarily I write one day a week, usually Sundays. And I usually write for 4 hours. And I write until I reach a natural stopping point between, say, 1 and 5,000 words. Not one word, between 1,000 and 5,000 words.
1 word.
And then if I have more time left in that 4 hours, I will then go back and I will read from the beginning, and I will begin my actual editing pass, so that I'm constantly shaping and revising and refining and stuff like that. But if I am working on a novel, or I am working on a stage play or a film script, a screenplay, I will outline. When it's film, I use the Robert McKee method to break everything out and pace it that way. And if I'm doing a novel, I just use an outline like I would use for a research paper. I don't have characters that talk to me. I think that would be really awesome and fun. So I can't remember ever deviating from my outline in novel form, but I do it frequently in film. And primarily, that's because I know the actors I'm working with. I know what's in their wheelhouse. I think to myself, I don't know if this location is going to really work for this kind of impact, so I'll shift things around. Right. But, yeah. So does that answer your question, Mark?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Cool.
great.
I don't want to be evasive. So that's kind of my schedule. So now it's just 1 day a week. But that has worked very well. The Trinity stories that I wrote for the Trinity Project were then compiled, just my stories, into a collection called Body of Work. And that is now in its 3rd printing. But it's also the first thing I've had out in about 20 years.
Oh, awesome.
So I think that it's, there was, fans were kind of like, yay! Oh, okay, we'll get that. But you will find episodes of Speak with Mark and I, and of course this episode of Fair Play on the Speak YouTube channel. And Mark, thank you again for talking with us today. And absolutely, you guys, bounce on over to blueforgepress.com. Go into your local bookstore. It's Johnny Apocalypse and the Nuclear Wasteland is book 1. That is what you want to pick up. And no matter where you get your book, as soon as you're done reading it and you love it, because you will, please go to Amazon and post a review.